te Leftists, Satana malios que spiritus malignos, via perditione manimarum, per vagantur in mundo divina virtute.
Good evening, my brothers and sisters. Someone give me a thumbs up somewhere if you can hear me. I should see that hopefully somewhere, although not guaranteed, of course. Oh, purple waves. What does that mean? Speaking of purple waves, the epicenter of the nucleus, me, live and direct from Tenconi Talks, aka The Bunker, episode number 29. Time flies when you're having fun, guys. We're not having much fun though, are we? So time flies also when you're going through extreme suffering. Speaking of suffering, a Sudanese migrant who was granted a 5-year visa. What difference does it make? He was granted a 5-year visa, and then he was granted refugee asylum status. Like any of these words matter. He was here. He arrived here, and the system said, "Yep, you qualify. Have at." This Sudanese migrant, he decided to try and cut someone's head off in Belfast on Monday evening. So the theme of tonight, Patriots, is to understand, is to break down like we have done for the last couple of weeks, is to break down exactly what the enemy looks and sounds like. What does it look like? What does it sound like? Not necessarily like how does it move or dress, etc. But you've got to know. Where this is going. It's the leftists. It's leftist ideology. But we need to break down exactly what that means and what that looks like. Because every time we, collective effort, my team and I, help the Patriots understand what the enemy looks like, the closer you become individually and within your communities, online and offline, you're able to diagnose the problem, and that's something you can sell. You can't sell a product if you don't know what the product is. You don't know why you're doing it. It doesn't make any sense. People are always going to be looking for a reason not to buy. They're always looking for that. They've always got a defense. Someone knocks at your door, starts selling you something you don't want to know, right? No one goes, yeah, please come in, have a cup of tea and a biscuit and tell me about your portfolio and let me give you loads of money. That's literally never happened. So it is our job collectively to demonstrably be able to essentially be an apologist for our political ideology, our economic policies, our political philosophy. What do those words even mean? That was like a lot, Nick. What does that even mean? Political philosophy? Do you mean like liberalism? Do you mean like conservatism, traditionalism, socialism, Marxism? What political philosophy are you talking about? Now, of course, a lot of people do know, but we've got to know our political philosophy. We've got to know our economic policy, and we've got to know what we're saying to our brothers and sisters with regards to what the enemy looks and sounds like. Because if you can't describe the problem, if you can't to be an apologist, if you can't defend your position, you can't sell it. And that's, no one ever says, yeah, I'll just take you at face value, bring that in. No, you have to be able to take rebuttals, etc. Now, of course, as I've always maintained, you're going to get people who don't want to know, don't want to talk to you. They'll call it, and then of course, the more extreme they get, the more they call you a Nazi, racist, fascist, bigot, etc., etc. That's a far left campaign to dehumanize you. It's an extremist model. That's why they do that. That's why they call you racist, fascist, bigot, Nazi. It's to dehumanize you so that other more extreme people can take you out. That's why they do it. So that's why the left, if you're ever wondering, why do the left behave like this? It's a dehumanization tactic to dehumanize you so that someone doesn't see you as human. They see you as subhuman, and therefore they can take you out. As easy as we take rats out when we find them, God forbid, in your, coming up through the floorboards or through the pipes or whatever, etc. Okay, so we've got to diagnose exactly what the problem is, looks and sounds like. In reaction to Monday night, there have been nationwide protests. Let's take a little clip at our friends in Portsmouth and Southampton and Southampton Patriots. Let's have a little look at their effort. They were out protesting last night, like a lot of good people. peaceful, no nonsense, make your voice heard, march from point A to point B, and finish outside a hotel, which you're paying for, by the way. And then obviously, typically there's speeches there, things like that, where you basically make your case heard. You make it heard locally within communities. So, for example, you're doing that to the mayor, you're doing that to the local MP, you're doing that to the councillors, to the lead councillor as well. It's a very powerful position that controls an awful lot. So marching from point A to point B, or doing a static protest, all of that essentially shows to people in power, we are not happy. It's called like it's a protest, right? So the question then becomes, how useful is what's happening up and down the country? So if it remains peaceful, it's useful in that everyone exercises their right and then they go home. No one gets hurt, no one goes to prison. But if people do end up going to prison, etc., what have you, these people's lives are ruined, not just for the time they're in jail, obviously in a multi-ethnic prison, which has a lot of Islamists inside of them in the British system, but you also have to regroup your life when you come out as well. So it's not 2 years or a year in prison. It's actually more like 5. So it's 2 years in prison, but you spend the next 3 to 4 years trying to piece it all back together again. And I just don't want anyone going to jail. So you'll see lots of different pieces of commentary when Southport, August 24, the unrest, and also now this individual in Belfast has been brutally attacked. So you'll see a public justified in their response and their reaction. You'll see this where they are so angry with the government for allowing this to happen. But what we're going to dissect tonight will outrage you and enrage you rather so much further than that when you understand more, as we do every week. Whilst it's incredibly heated at the moment, when you understand more and more about really what's going on, what the agenda really looks and sounds like, what's really happening, you'll understand how embedded and entrenched we are in this wickedness. And the only reason at the end of all that, why you'd say, right, well, literally, what's the point, Nick? Like, why do you do what you do? What's the point? The absolutely only way that we can solve this is by taking power. That's it. That's literally it. So why I do what I do, why the team backs me, why people back me, why we have the portfolio that we've built, why we are wanted up and down the country, why we do the things we do, is because people have understood the mission, and that mission is to take power. I'm going to play you another clip now, guys. This, again, not to wind you up, but to explain, as I will do in terms of my points tonight, what we're up against.
On your knees! 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 On your fucking knees!
So everybody remembers 2020, the year I decided to get back into politics and devote the rest of my life to bringing about change. Was in it was 2019, but that's off topic. It was 2020 that I was pushed over the edge, like a lot of people, when I saw the two-tier nature of the policing and justice, or lack thereof, of Black Lives Matter. So 6 years later, after living and breathing this for 6 years, not to mention my previous life in politics, which again isn't relevant to this, and academically as well, there will be people who still don't understand why what's happening is happening. They genuinely don't understand it. And that's where I was in 2020. And if it wasn't for good people posting about this, and if it wasn't for social media, I wouldn't have been educated or edified as quickly as I was. And I quickly woke up to what I had learned when I was studying, and this was also the focus of my dissertation as well: political ideology, political philosophy and economics. And it all came crashing back: the Marxist agenda. Nick Tenconi's talking about far left extremism again. That's right, because I'm the kind of guy that likes to go to source on these things. The Black Lives Matter outrage that we all have from 6 years ago saw mobs of vigilantes throughout the West mobilizing, covering their faces, and mobbing and descending in packs to conduct violent disorder, criminality, vigilanteism, and the list goes on and on and on. And in the case of Bristol and the Colston statue that they tore down that went viral, the mainstream media promoted that everywhere, and the Avon and Somerset police allowed it. I always forget the name of the guy, but the chief guy there, the chief police guy that makes all the decisions. It's a very like the head of police. I forget the title now for Somerset and Avon. These are big, these are powerful roles, big titles. They allowed it. They were like, no, let them get on with it, because this Colston statue has been such a problem for such a long time. No, it hasn't. Liberals and right-leaning people couldn't have cared less. They might have had their opinion at the dinner table, but they couldn't have cared less. What they were saying was actually the communists, the Marxists, the hard left, the socialists, all these types, they've got a massive problem with it. So Bristol, Avon and Somerset police allowed, you guys all remember, the tearing down of the statue, and then they rolled it, and the police just let them do it. And that's a hell of a long way to the estuary there where they chucked it in. The whole thing was filmed. Everyone was allowed to do it. Eventually, 4 people, the Bristol 4, they went through the system. They got charged. They came out. And what was it? They were acquitted. Yeah, because they were tried in Bristol. Who were the who were the police officers that stood down in Bristol? Leftists. Who were the people controlling Bristol at the time? Leftists. Who was on the jury when the Bristol 4 were banged to rights, caught with their pants down? Leftists. Who got away with it? Leftists. Stop me if I'm going too fast, guys. If you to say that leftism isn't the problem, leftist activists, leftist policymakers, leftist policies, leftist thinkers, leftist designers, architects, engineers, the people writing the manuscripts, the books, etc., the theories, this leftist mindset is inherently evil, because what the leftists always tried to do was to say to the working class, you're oppressed, and you're oppressed by the rich. They always tried to say to the what they called lower classes, you are lower class, not because you're lower class or anything of the sort, or working class, but because you're oppressed. And they didn't care about life decisions that a man, a father, a husband does or doesn't make. They would say it's the same with affirmative action and black communities in America. It's so disproportionately represented in prison and by crime statistics. And then the conservative position says, as pro-law enforcement types, we say, well, surely it's to do with the fact that they're committing more crime. Again, this is all across the world. And then the left would say, no, it's got nothing to do with that. It's to do with their socioeconomic standing. That's a debate that's not for tonight, and that is a very long debate. But that's what the Marxist agenda always did. And the Marxist agenda uses the socialists and the commies, the hard left, and left centrists, left-leaning liberals, centrists, just good old-fashioned liberals, to guilt them, these poor people, again, regardless of circumstance, right? These people are oppressed. So in other words, what they're saying is rich people don't suffer. What they're saying is people who have built businesses don't suffer. The people who are the captain of industry types, pioneers, they don't suffer. These people don't lose children. These people don't lose their wives. They don't lose their husbands. Aristocracy, anywhere up the food chain that you want to talk about, the Marxist agenda said these people over here, they're evil. You see, you have to point to someone to dehumanize, to say they're evil, to give you your fight, to give you your struggle. Otherwise, we're all looking around going, well, things are pretty great right now in the Garden of Eden. So no one to point out with regards to the evil, right? Until, of course, it turned toxic because of Eve. That's what the Marxist agenda has always done. That argument never worked because capitalism, when it was free market economics, that built the West and people had happy, prosperous lives. Yes, liberalism and cultural problems. Yes, divorce. Yes, abortion. And yes, drugs and alcohol. And I'm not talking about that. But generally speaking, the Marxists didn't get its wicked way, which is to make everyone equally miserable, upset, and equally poor and equally the same. They didn't get their way in any way, shape, or form through this agenda that they were driving of we must all be the same. You're oppressed, therefore these people have to come down, which brings us up. So they want total equity. As you know, the economics of the Marxist is total equity. None of that. Loads of elements to that. I've probably gone a little bit too in depth there, but there's a lot more to it. Naturally, that didn't work. And the Marxists knew this. So the long march through the institutions we talk about is where the communists, the foot soldiers of Marxism, the socialists, their bedfellows, by the way, and the left-leaning liberals go along with it. They decided to reinvent the class struggle. And they did it via the use of the R word, racism. That's it. That's literally what they did, guys. That's what the foot soldiers of Marxism reinvented the class war that they'd been proponents of for the last 100 or odd years, more than since about the mid-19th century ish. They decided to reinvent it into what's called a culture war. The culture war they invented it, they started it. And that was to say to everyone who wasn't white, straight, and or Christian, you're oppressed. White guy, bad guy, you're oppressed. So they came up with Black Lives Matter in terms of theories, ideas, concepts, designs, the people that engineer, the architects of this leftism. They came up with critical race theory, intersectionality, decolonization theory, Black Lives Matter, diversity, equity, inclusion, DEI. No right-leaning person, no conservative came up with any of that whatsoever. We have very different policies economically and culturally. It's always going to be to foster traditional the faith of Christianity and the culture, norms, and values that are fostered by the one true faith. That's and economics, that changes depending on whether you're at war and who's knocking on your door who wants a peace as well, because sometimes you never know, do you? And also what the public wants and doesn't want as well, what you do with the taxpayer pot. But generally speaking, it's free market economics, and there shouldn't be too much regulation by the government in these and these areas, but there should be regulation arguably in these and these areas. Again, that's subject to change as well, but culturally it's all Christian conservative values or Christian values. So hopefully that helps some of you who are interested to know more, or who can go on to evangelize your brothers and sisters. The agenda, the enemy, the battle is against Marxism, but it's against the agents of Marxism. It's against the proponents of Marxism. It's against the soldiers of Marxism. Those are your communists, your socialists, and your liberals. So then 35 million of us, because the country is split in half at the moment. Half is patriotic right, the other half is left or far left. This patriotic side on the right says, can't really see the communists. You see the stickers when you go into the big cities, and you see the social media clips where they act psychotic and you can't understand their behavior. Why would you ever behave like that? That type of thing. And you see the stand up to racism sign and their little chants like, it's my first day out and I've never been to the park before, that type of thing. And you can see their eyes. They're completely either possessed or on drugs. You've seen their behavior, right? And it's just an amalgamation of pride flags and LGBTQIA plus and liberate Muslims, which is so ironic. We'll come on to that. And pride TQIA plus, the Islamic stuff, Palestine, another example. And you see the Antifa flag and the commie flag, and you see all these different flags. They're all united under one banner. The left understand their political philosophy. They understand their political ideology. They understand their economics. On the right, we have a real problem in getting behind one banner. The left have it. They have the Socialist Worker Party, and they stand up to racism. So all of the trade union money that comes in, all of that is leftist agenda, leftist funds, leftist ideas. All of that goes into freeing the working man from the oppression that they're under, right? But now it's about race. And all the power of the trade union, we're talking about billions, guys. The amount of membership, there'll be people watching this tonight, same as every week, who pay into their trade union for protection or for whatever, etc., etc. So the enemy, understanding the enemy is what it looks like, sounds like, dresses, talks like, whatever, is key. And it's the foot soldiers of Marxism. And yes, that goes from the communists, the militant far left, the extreme far left, right up to your left-leaning liberal who absolutely loves having multiple abortions. It's the same pot from the far left to the middle ground. So we have to understand the agenda. We have to understand who's pushing for it. I gave you the example of Bristol in 2020. There are so many more examples, patriots, so many more. Left, so judges, mayors, MPs, councillors, lead councillors, activists, all under the banner of Stand Up to Racism, Socialist Worker Party, etc. All of it galvanized under one banner. And we go, oh, there's no problem with communism. There's no problem with Marxism in Britain. This isn't Russia or North Korea or Eastern Europe or whatever 40 years ago, etc. It's here, but it's cultural in our institutions. It's called cultural vandalism, patriots. So any leader giving a podcast as intimate as how I do, I think it's important that when it's required, not just in speeches, but in this environment as well, we actually address whether it's 10, 15 minutes, but you get the idea. Just let's address the problem and never lose sight of the problem. Our side, our problem is godlessness and the complete and utter breakdown and ruin of the nuclear family, which links to godlessness. But that's on us. And we have to change that. We have to repent. We have to atone. We have to change that. But in terms of the enemy, we're walking rifles hand in hand and we're shoulder to shoulder and we're looking down the battlefield. In terms of that viewpoint, in terms of the enemy, it's the agents of Marxism. And the agents of Marxism, a lot of these guys, liberals, socialists, commies, they don't even know they are. Remember, it's freedom, rights, choice. Remember, you're oppressed. Freedom, rights, choice. I want to kill my baby. You're oppressed. I'm brown, not white. You're oppressed. I earn 16 grand a year. You're oppressed. I'm gay. You're oppressed. I'm lesbian. You're oppressed. They're there. Stand Up to Racism, Socialist Worker Party, the Labour Party. They're there. I'm an immigrant. You're definitely oppressed. What? Anyway, so I could go on and on and on, but so tonight, guys, I'm going to play you another clip, which gives me a chance to have some coffee because it's been a long day. So massive shout out to Southampton Patriots and my man Craig down there. God bless you. I showed you that video of that horrible video of the difference in between how cops reacted to Black Lives Matter demands, like also in that where the black guy's telling the cop to take the knee. Why didn't the cop just turn around and slap him and be like, sorry, mate, sorry, back off, back off. And the white guy next to him as well, back off. Do you know what I mean? Instead, he acquiesced. Like, love me. I'm one of you. I'm not a racist. Love me. It's so pathetic and emasculating, just even to watch it as well. Speaking of deranged leftists, let's all have a good laugh at this.
Blaming our housing crisis on immigration is absolutely wild to me, actually.
Well,
Robert,
that says more about you because we've got an extra 10, 20 million people come in the country.
Do you think that if
an extra 10 million people is going to have an effect on housing?
Do you think that if we lock down our borders, we're going to solve the housing crisis?
Well,
is that going to solve it?
The thing is, the more people you have in a country, the more houses you're going to need. I know it might sound...
He's really good at explaining things like this, isn't he?
Yeah, that's Green. She's a Green Party councillor. Last Thursday question time. I forget her name because she's a nobody, and she's not until she repents. So I don't need to know her name, but I do forget it. It might come back to me in a minute. This is the mind of the leftist. This is the mind of the leftist, guys. Okay, you've got it. We've got them right there. Rob is standing for reform in Makerfield, which is next Friday, the 19th. Yeah, in the by-election. They're on question time panel. It's really simple. They're making the point about it's left versus right. It's left. People say it's not left versus right. It's literally left versus right. He's right. She's left. She's what? Left-leaning liberal, socialist, commie, Marxist. They all lie and deceive anyway, so they never say. Whereas the right, we always say, yeah, I'm conservative. Again, do you know your political philosophy, your political ideology? Yes, you either do or you don't. If you don't, you've got to change that right now. Rob's on the right, clearly, demonstrably, and she's on the left. Regardless of how many inches to the left or to the right, it's left versus right. And you've got it right there, guys. It's done. It's case closed. He says, and Rob doesn't know. I don't know how much he does. Look, the guy's a plumber, so it's not his job, but he knows enough, right? Which is all I ask. Good stuff. He has said, if we bring in more people to Britain, I think he said 10 million, and I think it's something like 12 million since Blair, but it could be more than that. Anyway, if we bring in 10 million people who all need housing, all need NHS, all need school places, it's just so boring. I'm just going to stop there. But you see, does that make sense, guys? If we bring in 10 million people, then that's going to affect how things are priced. Correct? It's not even economics 101. It's a debate. Sure, you can thrash it out. But this woman has, rather than say, yeah, no, I completely understand that. But the liberal position, Rob, is to accept people, and it's the right thing to do as well. The left know to use that rhetoric because it puts the right on the chessboard. It puts you on the back foot, and it means you've got to start thinking very cleverly about that, because then they're just waiting to say, "I thought you were a Christian," and then they're going to bastardize the Bible, which is basically what a lot of people do, because it's the written word in the Bible. It's right there. God's second greatest command is to love thy neighbor, and they'll bastardize that with you. So Rob's on the back foot here. I'm certainly not going to tell him what he needs to do, though. He's got to figure that out for himself. But what I would have done is, I would have said to her, you see how he was so soft with her and really backed away. She looks ridiculous, and then she turns, after patronizing him and condescending to him because she's a misandrist. She despises men. That's right. You can tell she's learned behavior to condescend a man and to be rude and to be patronizing and to be passive aggressive, because that's generally what people do, especially in this country, when they despise you rather than just say it and never behave violently. But that's as condescending and as patronizing as you can get. And again, it's deliberately to a man. You know that she's speaking to men like that. She's a misandrist. She then looks to the audience after she's made herself look ridiculous and say, try to galvanize support. Oh, he's very good at explaining things, isn't he, ladies? Basically declaring herself as a misandrist. I'm going to completely ignore the gentleman's question. I'm not going to engage in debate, but I will mock him. That is the action of a misandrist. Again, but no one's going to talk about that, right? No one's going to label it like that or anything. Well, we will on the right, because we call things out. If I was Rob, I wouldn't have let Fiona or anyone else let her get away with that. I wouldn't have let it go. I would have said, I want an answer, and everyone else deserves an answer right now. How many murders is enough? How many rapes are enough? How much blood in milliliters, pints, gallons, liters is enough? At what point, as a councillor for, I think she's in Manchester, this woman, for the Green Party, at what point, how many gallons of blood would you change your political ideology? Because it's all about political ideology. She's a member of the Greens. They believe in open borders. They don't believe in borders. But again, there's just no teeth there whatsoever. Britain hasn't had that for a very long time. You can't say that it's never had that, because there have been people on the right with teeth. But it's I can't think of any examples. And I've been watching this since unfold since Thatcher. One more video to give you guys. Nope. Yeah, okay, cool. So this is from when I went to Calais, with reference to what happened on Monday night in Belfast. Myself and my team took ourselves to Calais to confront the migrants directly, to see what they looked like, see what they were eating, drinking, smoking, sticking up their nose, throwing down their throats, you name it, the lot. Hygiene, everything. I want to know what they're wearing. Are they wearing nice clothes? Do they look impoverished? I want to know if they're crawling about and they haven't eaten and I can see the rib cage. I want to know. Then I'm going to help him. I believe, yeah, I am. No, I am absolutely on French soil. I'm going to help him. That's where we were. Like you see in the adverts, and you can't watch it anymore. It's just, you want to help these people, right? Regardless of anything, religion, etc. I want to see if they're aggressive. I want to see if they're filled with hate. I want to see if they're spiteful. I want to see if they'll speak with us. I want to know if they can speak full stop, let alone English. So that's what the team and I did, as you all know, last year extensively, to showcase to Britain what is en route to our nation.
Tell me where you came from. No one. Where? Where? Where did you come from?
They won't talk to me. They won't tell me where they've come from. They're protected by women and NGOs. If they're fleeing war, why are they fleeing their wives? Why are they fleeing their families? It's lies. It's lies.
France is a safe country. France is a safe country. They don't want to stay in France. They don't want to stay in France. They don't want to stay in France. Yeah, they want to come to Britain. You're all headed towards Britain illegally.
So you can't hear what they're... I actually forgot that bit, but the guy actually said from the left part of the crowd, we don't want to be here anymore. We don't... It's a word to that effect. I'd forgotten that bit. Anyway, so there you go, guys. We went, and you've got like 8 or 9 women per pack, and then there's the sort of femboy. Presumably he's just passed around as a sex toy, but that guy turns up who's got the attitude and, you know, the hair, and they just look like... It's like a sort of disheveled rat that's gay and just like looks like a communist. It's that look as well. And in Europe, they really get it down pat. Britain, the guys struggle massively. The women are rabid. But out there, it was the same story each and every time. There was a pack of women defending these men. And then they had the token, again, as I've just described it. And that's not bigoted to say it like that. That's literally what turned up or what arrived, bearing in mind who was driving the cars about and who was doing what, etc. We saw, regardless, Sudanese, Eritrean, Syrian, Iraqi, Afghani. For those of you who haven't seen the footage, it's coming up to being a year old. We did 3 tours out there. Anyway, you can find it. If you plug it into Google, you'll find it. We were met with fighting age males who had all of the tattoos around the eyes, the teardrops, the machine guns, and on their chains, they had the AK-47 pendant. You could argue that all of that is harmless. Fine, I'll play ball. We know it's not. That's a sign which says, I'm happy to kill you, or I've been to jail because I've killed someone. And now, because I'm so hard, I've put a teardrop here, or I've got like a gun or a knife or something like that, you know, painted on my face. Because if you were really hard, that's what you would do. If you were a killer, you'd do that, wouldn't you? So anyway, we were confronted by that. All of the marijuana smoking as well, yeah. And when you call out the NGO workers and all of these different migrants, etc., they just call you Nazi, or you racist, you fascist, you Nazi, etc., etc., etc. So you can't reason with any of this, and you can't do business with it. You can't negotiate. It's just a declaration of war. And the reason why is because if there are still people who are still somehow bizarrely supporters of the left or leftists themselves, or who criticize people who disagree with their opinion on the subject of immigration in 2026, have a look at the video of the Sudanese migrant in Belfast with the gentleman on Monday night when he was on top of the guy, hacking away at his face and his neck. This is not an isolated incident. So where does that land us? That lands us that the left will say, hence tonight's episode, the left will not say, sorry, this, but let's face it, why tonight's episode is called what it's called. The left believe racism is worse than murder and rape altogether now. The left believe that racism is worse than murder and rape. That is true. So you go ask your leftist and liberal, left-leaning or ardent commie, whoever you know or you get in, maybe you're in WhatsApp groups with them, just ask them. As I would have done if I was Rob facing off to whatever that thing was on Question Time, the Green Party councillor, I would say this: how many murders is enough? How many rapes are enough? In milliliters, pints, gallons, liters, don't care how much blood has to be spilt until you change your political ideology of leftism with regards to the subject of immigration. That's it, guys. Face to face, street level, in your WhatsApp groups. Do whatever you got to do. Evangelize your brothers and sisters. Maybe right now you're looking at this and you're liberal, and now you've realized you're really not liberal, and you've been doing it because you've been seeing all of our work and the good work that all these different people are doing, the patriots, so many good people doing such good work, and you've woken up and gone, oh wow, yeah, no, I really was liberal. I really was liberal in these areas, but in these areas, maybe I was more conservative, and maybe you've decided to look at it. But I'm not going to turn my backs on liberals, because you can still atone, you can still change, you can still repent. On immigration, right now in Britain, long story short, how could you be a leftist? The trade unions, the Socialist Worker Party stand up to racism. Your David Lammies, who refused to take the knee for Henry Novak, which he's publicly said he's not going to do it, but he would, in a heartbeat, he'd do it for Black Lives Matter. For George Floyd. What? The guy's a scumbag, career criminal, drug addict who was not repentant. I have not seen a shred of evidence, and feel free to stick it in front of me, but I have not seen a shred of evidence which shows to me that he was back in church, in confession, and or repentant. I have not seen that. So yeah, I will say, he was a drug addict and a scumbag. The guy was a nasty piece of work. But the left say, remember, key word, he was oppressed. But he pointed a gun at a pregnant woman's belly. Doesn't matter. He was oppressed. But this guy was, he's an ex-Al Qaeda terrorist who is now running Syria. And there's a famous shot of him holding up two heads like that were severed. Doesn't matter. Remember, the leftist, he's oppressed because he's brown and a Muslim. You can't reason with this, guys. It's a declaration of war. 37 minutes, pretty much giving an overview, again, of the enemy and the Marxist agenda and the psychopathy and insanity behind the modern day leftist. Okay, that has evolved in the last 60, 70 plus years. It used to just be sort of labor economics. And here's the lie that you get sold. It used to be labor economics, which was about redistribution of wealth. These people that have a lot should give as much as possible to these people that have none. And these people are the workers. And we've got this thing called nationalization and nationalism and industry. So these people should pay so much money to keep all these guys going because they're the worker bees. The conservative position does not argue against that necessarily. We don't agree with taxing the big bosses that have the big companies that bring the worker bees in, that give people jobs and pay them salaries. The conservative position economically is to regulate that, regardless of who it frightens off from wanting to invest in Britain. But the conservative position is to regulate that. The problem is the conservative leaders and the Conservative Party never really did. And that's where you got capitalism on steroids, monopolies, and what we call vulture capitalism, which is not the same as free market economics. And the argument that free economics leads that way is simply not true. That's why you have governors and government. You've just never had it. Britain's just never had it. But old Labour and old blue Tory conservative, the blue-blooded conservative camp, culturally, they were pretty much the same. Who wouldn't want strong borders? Who wouldn't want to provide for their family? Who wouldn't want a driveway and a white picket fence and a wife and children and a dog and a happy life? Who wouldn't want family? Who wouldn't want these things? You can say no to them, and that's absolutely fine. But who wouldn't want those things, or at least a shot at safety, security, prosperity, etc., etc.? So old Labour, the old left, and blues culturally were aligned. They disagreed on economics, but also the blue-blooded conservative position was to say, yeah, we this and this needs to be nationalized. They do deserve rights, blue-collar jobs versus white-collar jobs. But there was never disagreement necessarily, and I was around it all my upbringing, all my childhood, red and blue mixed. It was fine. It was just different amounts of wealth and economics. So again, class divide. But that wasn't in the last 50, 60 years, that's chilled out. It was before then that it was more of an issue. But that's going way back. But that resolved itself, and you all know about that. Words like segregation, apartheid, etc. This was dealt with a long time ago. Pioneers came along and said, we've got to stop this. Some good people, some not so good people, by the way. So the leftist agenda can't win division and hatred and sowing their seeds of evil. It's interesting how the left always say that the right are sowing seeds of division, sowing seeds of hate. That's literally what the left do. The left, the foot soldiers of the Marxism, sorry, they literally sow seeds of hate and division. That's what they do. They weaponize anyone who's not white and straight, that they're that they're oppressed, that they're a victim. Sorry, that's what they do. And you can't do that through love, through peace and prosperity. You do it through hatred. You do it through anger. If you want to weaponize and radicalize somebody, that's how you do it. You don't do it through love and peace. You do it through hatred, and you do it through anger. And you need someone to blame for that. Leftism equals leftism is evil. Marxism is evil. This is the enemy that we are up against, my brothers and sisters. Please don't ignore reality. Please take my word for it. I remain your leader and will always be at street level with you. That is where the people need hope and inspiration the most. I have some subheadings here. Police race action plan. How the press describes the accused. How the government describes the accused. Policing and prosecution. Bailed versus remanded. Now, I asked how quickly they were fast-tracked. Political prisoners of a liberal democracy. I want to say a massive shout out and thank you to my team this week. We're not even done yet with this week. I want to say thank you so much. You really are, well, there's a reason why they're on the team, but a massive shout out to my team for helping me put this podcast episode together, guys. Usual stuff, please. I should probably say this at the start, but yeah, I think actually, I should probably say it at the start, shouldn't I? So reshare this or do whatever you've got to do if you think that there's some worth to it. So there's, I think, 8 subheadings that I quickly want to go through with you guys so that you understand. What I've just done is explain to you, but I actually want to give you the meat on the bones in terms of specific examples with regard to the enemy that we face in the context of what happened in Belfast on Monday night, and with regards to the fact that we can't necessarily see or hear what we're talking about sometimes. It's like an invisible enemy, it seems. So some specific examples. The police race action plan. This is stated that its focus is for a police service to be anti-racist and trusted by black people. It's created in response to the death of George Floyd and designed by Deputy Assistant Commissioner Alison Haydari and implemented at Hampshire Police by Chief Constable Olivia Pinkney. The Race Action Plan aims to producing equality of policing outcomes for people from different ethnic groups by responding to individuals and communities according to their specific needs, circumstances, and experiences, with understanding that these will be radicalized, racialized, and with the aim of reducing harm. It does not mean treating everyone the same or being colorblind. It does not mean treating everyone the same or being colorblind. So it says, actually, these guys are these people over here, they're oppressed, and therefore they're the attackers. Well, if they're oppressed, there has to be an attacker. There has to be a smoking gun, right? DEI is racist against whites. This is outcome-driven policing. It focuses on manipulating outcomes in order to achieve the desired aim rather than the impartial application of the law. Police force, in the case of Henry Novak, went on diversity. The police involved in the Henry Novak case went on diversity courses that controlled and pressurized them to adopt certain ideas. 1 in 7 officers and staff who took the inclusion matters training said they did not feel free to share their views. Again, DEI is not only racist, but fascistic. It is authoritarian. It instills fear in the individual. They daren't speak out. Moving on. In terms of the oppression, the stifling nature of what the Patriots are up against at the moment, what we call 2-tier policing and 2-tier justice, the race action plan, that would have been nationwide, by the way. Again, like I said, the designer, the author, the educator, the engineer, who gave birth to DEI, Black Lives Matter, intersectionality, critical race theory. There's a smoking gun there. It's the leftist. Next, moving on. How does the press describe the accused? Two-tier policing, two-tier justice. We've got to give examples. Let's do Axel Rudikabana first. He was described in the press as a quiet Welsh choir boy. What else do I need to say? He was described in the press. We talk about two-tier policing, two-tier justice, two-tier media, two-tier governance. Now we see, now we understand it. It doesn't seem so invisible anymore. He was described as a quiet Welsh choir boy. The fear of racism led to the head teacher to remove the word sinister from Southport killer Axel Rudikabana's education plan after mental health workers accused her of racially profiling a black boy with a knife. Rudikabana would later go on to murder 3 little girls and injure many more, as you well know, in Southport, August 24. Next example, Lucy Connolly was described as someone who incited violence and stirred up racial hatred and encouraged activity that threatened life and public safety. Everyone knows what Lucy wrote. She shouldn't have written it. It was silly. Under my government, we wouldn't care. We literally wouldn't care. She wrote it. The left, the media, two-tier policing, governance, media, they all went, that's incitement. That's murderous. Remember, the left think racism is a worse crime than murder and rape. So if you say anything in that ballpark, whilst being policed and governed under DEI, intersectionality, Black Lives Matter, decolonization, all of these leftist policies and agendas, you, if you are conceived of as a racist, you will be treated worse than a murderer or rapist, because that's how the left view you. I hope it's making sense now, guys. Going back to Lucy, we all know what she wrote. She shouldn't have written it. It was very silly. I don't care. Literally don't care. Say what you like. Don't care. Because thinking and saying and doing are all different things. The Belfast beheading is being described as a stabbing in the press. Man stabbed in Belfast. That's interesting, because a man was stabbed in Belfast. Migrant terrorism strikes again. Man stabbed in Belfast. Migrant terrorism continues to destroy Britain. Tormented Sudanese victim of colonization lashes out at man who owed him money. I mean, this is just off the top of my head, guys, but I'm trying to help here. So does it make sense now, propaganda-wise? And you got hundreds of millions and millions of people potentially looking at all of this stuff. Two-tier policing, two-tier justice, two-tier governance, two-tier media. Next, how the government describes the accused. How the government describes the accused. Do you remember Black Lives Matter 6 years ago? Oh, yeah, that one. Do you remember how the police and the commissioners and the mayors and the MPs and the councillors and Johnson, Starmer, all of the above, we understand you guys are really angry. I'm angry too. Verbatim. Do you remember that? We understand you're angry. We're angry too. That's a dog whistle to say crack on. But I also have to say, as Starmer, Streeting, Rayner, Dealer's Choice, Lammy, but we also have to say, look, guys, behave out there. Don't go too far. We understand. We get it. We're taking the knee. We're with you. We're with you all the way, but don't go too far. So you say to the child that's been naughty, you've been really bad, but I understand why you did it. I could spit. Like, that's literally the same thing, right? Like to a 5-year-old. Yeah, I know you. It was really bad, but I understand why you did it. So we're all good, right? High five. It's the same thing, right? That's what happened. How does the government describe the accused? Who are they calling far right? When have you ever heard Johnson, Truss, Streeting, Rayner, Starmer, Lammy, Mahmood? When have you ever heard them say the word communist, Marxist, socialist, or the phrase, or the hybrid far left? When have you ever heard that? Never. Why? You've never heard them say it, but you've heard them say far right thug, far right extremism, far right Nazi. You've heard them say that all the time. Two-tier governance, two-tier justice, two-tier media, two-tier policing. How the government describes the accused. How many times victims were mentioned in Parliament? George Floyd 19 times, Henry Novak 3 times, Wayne Broadhurst once, Thomas Roberts 7 times, Terence Carney twice, Rhiannon White 4 times, Lucy Lowe once, Victoria Agoglia, 7 times, Charlene Downs once. The Met Police described the 2024 Notting Hill Carnival as peaceful despite 2 killings, 528 arrests, 4 stabbings, and numerous drug possession charges, offensive weapon possessions, and assaults on police and public order offences. Mostly peaceful. Do you remember that in 2020, all the graphics that were going around with cities burning, with far left activists burning cities to the ground? Violence in London, the police running away from them, a bit like Hare Hills. Do you remember that? Hare Hills summer 24. Do you remember when that scumbag family, the services, the child services, the protection agencies came round to save that child because it was in such a bad way, and all the migrants kicked off, and then everyone ran away, and that was it. We'll say no more about it. David Lammy, Keir Starmer, West Streeting, Angela Rayner, like I can just, Shabana Mahmood, new and old, Johnson. We understand, we get it. You're oppressed, you're a victim. DEI, racism's the new murder and the new rape. It's all starting to make sense now, isn't it, guys? Far right thugs, straight fast track, straight to jail. Black Lives Matter riot, burn down everything, cause so much social tension, so much breakdown within society. We understand your grievances, historical and present. The UTK rally was described by the government as far-right agitators and extremist views, and was described by Keir Starmer as hatred and division, despite only 20 arrests, one of which was a woman dressed as a knight with a plastic toy sword. Notting Hill Carnival, degenerate, disgusting, violent, black-on-black crime, debauchery, mostly peaceful. Islamists gathering outside Bateley Grammar School to behead the teacher that dared mock their false religion, mostly peaceful. Patriots turning up to a Tommy Robinson-led Unite the Kingdom demo, far-right thugs. See, this is what I'm trying to say, patriots. You see why we're so angry, why we're so justifiably so very, very angry, and rightly so as well. Policing and prosecution. 23rd of July 2024, a brawl broke out at Manchester Airport. The fight involved 2 brothers, Mohammed Ahmad. 3 Greater Manchester police officers were brutally assaulted. The brothers claimed they were acting in self-defense. Vikram Digwar also said he was acting in self-defense. He denied it. He confessed to murder, but then still took the stand and denied it. He still pleaded not guilty. The brothers did the same thing. I wonder why. Let's see now. They're brown, and they're perceived religious and skin color wise, ethnicity and religion wise, they're perceived of as a minority. So if you're banged to rights with your pants around your ankles, red-handed, why would you ever say not guilty? Because you have to have grounds for that, right? Otherwise it's a slam dunk. It's going to go the other way. That makes it aggravating. You get a harsher sentence. It's because your briefer said, we're going to get you off here, guys. You're a victim. Do you remember 300 years ago? Do you remember what Britain did in that? Your country of origin. You know what Britain did on the 23rd of July in 1786? Remember that? You're a victim. Remember? Brown, victim. Sikh, victim. Muslim, victim. The leftist mindset, the leftist agenda, leftist lawyers, leftist judges. You're a victim. It's a lot. There's more I could say about Manchester, but I'm going to move on. I mentioned bailed versus remanded. This is another thing for you guys as well. Who gets bailed? Who gets remanded? Who gets bailed? Who gets remanded? Vikram Digwar's brother, Gurpreet Digwar, lied to the police that Henry Novak had not been stabbed and had racially abused his brother, perverting the course of justice. Police also heard them conspiring in Punjabi in the police vehicle. He was arrested on multiple weapons charges and is currently on bail. He's on bail. Would we bail someone like that, or would we remand someone like that? Bearing in mind the gravity of the situation, the crime, would we bail someone? Sharam Amadi. Normally I'm better with pronunciation on names. 20, small boat migrant, was found guilty of grooming and sexually abusing girls aged between 12 and 16. He was granted bail. He is now on the run after he absconded during his trial at Sheffield Crown Court. Arrived on a dinghy, sexually abused girls aged between 12 and 16, he was granted bail. He was granted bail. You can't say it enough. He was granted bail. You can't say it enough. He was granted bail. What? Came here illegally. Remember, the left would call that a refugee. And then he interfered with 12 to 16-year-olds, which is in this country is illegal. We have protections in place via the law and the policing of the law and our courts to protect the most vulnerable within society. That's young girls. This guy, the leftist, will say, well, colonization. That guy should get off because he didn't know the cultural rules. Like that's what the left would say, right? He should get off. He's a victim, remember? Brown, came here on a boat, Muslim. We should respect their cultural norms and values, right? Who bailed this person? Sharam Muhammadi. Who bailed him? All together now. Was it a leftist? Was it a conservative? Was it a Marxist? Was it a fascist? What do you think the mindset was, guys, of the person, the judge that granted bail? It's a DEI sycophant. It's an intersectionality muppet. It's a BLM psycho. Is it coming through now, guys? Who bails somebody like that? You don't bail somebody like that. You stick them in a cell, and then due process has to be executed, and then he needs to be executed. So he's on the run. Why is he on the run? Because he got bailed. So if you're bailed and you're in the dock, you're in the frame for that kind of crime, and you came here illegally, why would you not run? You'd run, and the judge knows that. I thought judges were supposed to be intelligent. They know that. You came here illegally. You have nothing to lose. You don't care. Heaven only knows what you're capable of. I've bailed you. You're going to run. So then I should really start being a little bit harsher with what I'm saying then, guys. The judge is complicit. If this man rapes again whilst on the run, got nothing to lose, right? And he knows he's going to get a lenient sentence anyway, because again, he's a victim, he's oppressed, he's a migrant, brown, whatever. Then the judge is complicit in the rape. Then the judge should go on trial, right? The CPS should prosecute the judge. The judge should be in the frame for allowing the rape to happen. Educating you all, if you'll indulge me, with the problem, highlighting the problem, all the way from the scummy little commie leftist at street level with the little stand up to racism placard and his mates, and the black bloc and the masks and the pride flag and the hormone blockers and the weird stuff that they do in their little weird non-binary they them circles, all the way through to the judges and the Keir Starmers of the world and the DEI engineers and the DEI architects of the policies and the tyranny that we're living under are all leftist, guys. It's all left wing. It's all over there. It's not over here. It's authoritarian, which can be both sides, true, but it's over here. It's way on the left, way on the left. A man named Ola Dell raped a woman whilst he was currently on bail for violently attacking a young woman. The woman described how she had to take medication to prevent HIV. Why was Ola Dell bailed? Just recently in Southampton, a man named Reece Robinson threw 2 stones at the Southampton police protest. Neither hit a police officer, jailed for 2 years and 1 month. I was there, summer 24, saw it all, went to the court, met the family. In you go, 2 years. 2 years, 2 years, 2 years. It's violent disorder, guys. Every time. The problem is, it doesn't matter how many times I do a show like this where I talk to you about violent disorder. It doesn't matter, because men are still gonna listen to the ringleaders, and they're still gonna go and they're still gonna throw things at the police. If you throw something at the police, you're on the front line with the riot shields, and the cameras are absolutely everywhere. And nowadays you have these things called auditors, and they're obviously there to get monetization, to get money from their monetization, and they're filming everything and they're setting you up for the police. It's too exhausting to even go into. Just like, why be there? When the riot police come out and you're on the front line, walk away. Literally walk away. Don't be there. be anywhere but there. Lastly, how quickly people are fast tracked. Protesters from the Southampton disorder that followed the Henry Novak protest that I was speaking at have been sentenced on the 10th of June. So yesterday, right? 8 days later, including the weekend. Sorry. So yesterday and today, we've had the sentencing from literally the protest that I was speaking at that night. No matter how hard I tried, I can't pull 2,000 people back from marching towards a certain. Does that make sense? Now they've in 10 days, they've all been rushed through the CPS. Some of you guys will know a lot about the backlog. Some of you work in law, some of you work for the CPS. You'll have people that work in law or for the CPS. Anyway, it's my job to know about this. It's taken 10 days for a completely corrupted, backlogged, waterlogged system. It's taken 10 days to put all of these young men, regardless of what they did or didn't do, it's taken 10 days to fast track them through and put them into prison. But our prisons are full. You'll hear Starmer, Lammy and co say it all the time. Shabana Mahmood, our prisons are full. There's no space. Do you remember when they were letting people out to make way for the Patriots? It's a factory. There are train tracks that you can jump on right now, get on board that train, and you just go straight to prison. All you got to do is turn up and throw something that does or doesn't land or be there. We all saw what happened to the guy who was sitting on the wall when he got smashed up by the riot police. Southampton at Southport attack. July. Sorry, I said it was August. Sorry, that's my fault. It was July 2024. Protesters' sentences occurred on the 7th of August, 9 days after the unrest, guys. I thought the prisons were full. I thought there was a massive backlog. The Mohammed guys at Manchester Airport, July 25, June 25. Should that not have been fast tracked, guys? Should that type of violence, and towards a woman no less, mind you, they're Muslim, so kind of comes naturally, right? Should that not have been fast tracked? You tell me. The two Ahmad and Amaz, should that not have been fast tracked? Why did it? We've just had the court case verdicts, some of the last bit of the trial now. Should that not all have been fast tracked? Oh, well, actually, no, Nick, that's a really sensitive case, because we say the quiet part out loud. We say the quiet part out loud. They're black and Muslim. They're brown and Muslim. But the leftists won't say that, right? Actually, it's a really delicate case, and actually, we're following due process. Just say it. They're brown and they're Muslim, and they're getting special treatment. Two-tier governance, two-tier policing, two-tier justice, two-tier media. But the left will never say that. But they know it. And now they're delighted once again. They had it in summer of 24. And now they've got it again, and they'll continue to get it. A various amount of patriots are going to prison for 1 to 2 to 3 years. Lucy Connolly, Peter Lynch, God rest his soul. And now this young lad, Reese, as well. Which brings us on to talk about political prisoners of a liberal democracy. So Britain's a liberal democracy, right? At what point do we start calling them political prisoners, guys? Peter Lynch, Lucy Connolly, Tommy Robinson. Guy called Jordan Parler sentenced to 20 months following a post on social media. Every man and this is me reading out Jordan's post. Every man and their dog should be smashing FUCK out of Britannia Hotel, which is the migrant hotel. I forget where that is now. And because they're over there giving life of Riley off of the taxpayer, hardworking people, when it could be better, when it could be put to better use. Come on over here with no work visa, sit down and doss around, and there's people being put out homeless on the street, etc. And they get top band priority on housing and many more other reasons. Jordan Parler sentenced for 20 months. 20 months, Jordan Parler, 20 months for the post on social media. I've just read it out, guys, pretty much verbatim. And what did Lucy Connolly get? 3 years? Patriots, as always, Thank you so much for being with me tonight. Tonight's episode is titled "The Left Care More About Racism Than They Do About Murder and Rape," and I mean it, guys. I really do. This is the enemy. This is the enemy we're up against. It's the foot soldiers of Marxism, be they socialist, be they liberal, be they communist. Don't go thinking that the black bloc militant gun wielding extremist is what you should be looking for on the streets of Britain. It's everywhere. The cultural vandalism is everywhere. It's in our government. It's in our court, our judiciary, our legislature. It's in our policy making think tanks, mayors, MPs, councillors, gatekeepers, HR managers, teachers. They're everywhere. It's called the long march through the institutions for a reason. The only way we can stop this, rip it out, reverse it, change it, repeal it, whatever. The only way we can do that is if we have power. And the only way you can have power is if you return a majority of candidates in a general election. So whether Reform and Nigel do it, whether Kemi's Conservatives do it, and now we have Rupert Lowe's Restore. It doesn't matter who does it. At the next general election, Reform in 24 had all the excuses. We're a new party. We're just getting started. Please. Fine. We'll say no more about it. Sort of. In 29, there are no excuses. And all the leaders outside of myself and Kemi they're becoming older. Again, this is a very difficult sector. It's a very difficult career path, and it takes a lot from you. They're getting older. I'm talking about Rupert and Nigel. So you need a successor, right? Nigel's never had a successor. One of the most successful politicians in Britain in many ways, one of the most influential in many ways, certainly influential more than successful, but he is still where he's at. And right, love him or hate him, right or wrong, you cannot deny his social media profile. He's incredibly well known. He is famous. He's never had a successor. It's the Nigel show. There can be no second person. So what happens to Reform as Nigel gets older? Same with Rupert as well. Lots of people still don't know Rupert, and Nigel's got 20 years on him in terms of the public eye. Kemi, Rupert, Nigel, and/or they have one more chance. 29, last chance. If that gets lost and Labour stay in power for another 5 years, we've got the Tony Blair era, plus the 14 years under Blues, which was just as bad, plus the 24 to 29, 14, 24, 14 and 10, 24, plus the 9. So you're approaching 35, you're over a quarter of a century of centrism, DEI, Marxism by the back door, through the centrist liberal. We love everyone, the Tony Blair stuff. You know, we're liberal. We're in the middle. You can trust us. We're not authoritarian. Radical centrism, radical liberalism is authoritarian, because ultimately it has picked a side. It's picked the side of freedom, rights, choice, in line with the Marxist agenda, which is the race baiting, victimhood brigade stuff. Freedom, rights, choice. We need to make everyone equal. We need to bring everyone up to the same exact level. And we do that through DEI, intersectionality, critical race theory, Black Lives Matter, woke policing, two-tier policing, two-tier governance, two-tier justice, two-tier media. That's the agenda. It's not like someone can flick a switch and turn it off. It's not like it's not like it's malleable. It just, like a lot of things, it just happens. It just creates, it just evolves. But it's leftist in orientation. It's Marxist in orientation, and the proponents of all of this wickedness and all of this intolerance and all of this insidious nonsense that we're engulfed in. It's all leftist in orientation. If we want to stop it in this first past the post system in Britain, if we want to stop it, it's a majority of candidates. So Rupert, Nigel, Kemi, you have one shot. Join forces, don't join forces. Fight each other to the death, don't join each other. Don't fight each other to the death. You have one shot. And that is why, patriots, you back me as your leader. That's why we are here. That's why we're doing. That's why we put God first. That's why we have the missions we've got. That's why we're going to do what we're going to do, because this is the next, again, those numbers over 35 years. If we don't do the business in 29, over 35 years of DEI, leftism, and all the nonsense that goes with it. So that's it. How do you return a majority of candidates? You have to be a political party, and you have to have candidates who win their seats. How do you become a candidate? By applying through the website. Simple as. That's it. And once you've done that, the political party gives you everything that you need to win hearts and minds in that area, so that when you stand, no different from Reform's Rob Kenyon, for example, on the 19th in Makerfield, the party's giving him everything he needs to win, right? That's what happens. But a party can't do that without candidates. So I leave you with your choice. You have to back a horse, and you have to go absolutely all in terms of donating and supporting that party of your choosing. Like so many people back and endorse and support me in all these different ways, thanks be to God. But it doesn't change the realities. A majority of candidates at the next general election shapes the next 5 to 10 years from 29 and beyond. So if you're having a baby right now, you and your wife, all of this is going to be affecting between 0 and 10, your baby girl, baby boy, my 40s and my 50s if I'm still alive, your 30s and 40s if you're still alive, your 20s and 30s, depending on who's listening to this tonight. Everything right now is going to affect that economically and culturally. Every one of us has to get political. Every one of us has to back a horse. Patriots, thank you so much for being with me tonight. It really does mean the absolute world to me. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen. In Jesus' name we pray. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. God bless. I see you next week.